Hello everyone, I know what you're thinking. James, you've only just done an A8 review. Yes, I have, but this is not the A8, this is the S8. Now this car of course shares a great number of similarities with the A8 that I already reviewed, and it actually belongs to the same man that owned both it and the RS5. He agreed that he had two cars that were, on the face of it, quite similar. So he decided that this would be the best way to try and have his cake and eat it too. All the comfort and luxury of the A8 with the speed and performance of the RS5. There is with this car one real highlight and one thing which truly separates it from the garden variety A8. That's under here. The heart of this car is a 4-litre V8 twin turbo. Officially, this car produces 520 horsepower and the later Plus produced around 610. However, in traditional German fashion, this car is vastly underrated in terms of output. People that have dynoed it have reported figures of around 580 from the stock engine. This one, however, isn't stock. This one has had a trip to the mappers though, and it's come out producing 690 horsepower. In fact, if you're metrically inclined, it's just over 700 PS. Torque is 650 pound-feet. This is, by some margin, the most powerful car I have ever driven. It is, however, still 2.1 tons of German Luxobarge. So, what will it feel like? Well, as my barometer for impressive performance, I've brought along my constant companion, Laurie. So we'll see what he thinks of the performance. Let's take it out. Having driven the RS5 and the A8, first thing that strikes me is obviously this feels just like the A8 does. That is to say, lovely, luxurious, comfortable. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like the RS5. The exhaust on this currently is completely stock, and although if you listen closely you can hear the tones of something quite melodious, they are very, very muted. This isn't so much Iron Fist in velvet glove, it's Iron Fist in velvet glove wrapped in cotton, put in a nice oak case. It's all about subtlety. You'll notice this with all manufacturers. So for example, with Mercedes, the A45 is all wings and canards and all angry and kind of, spitting venom at you, and it's very, very showy. M100 Leland. Then by the time you get to the C-Class, it's still got big arches and things, and it's all very muscular and very taut and very aggressive looking thing. The E63 is more subdued, more subtle. The differences between it and the standard model not quite so obvious. And then by the time you get to the S-Class, they're nearly indistinguishable. And it's the same with Audi. Things like the S1, they want to be very, very shouty, and things like the RS4, they've got the big arches and they're a bit more aggressive. But this car is for the gentleman that wants to be somewhat understated, or as understated as you can be in something the size of the Queen Mary. Now, those of you who've already seen footage from this camera, you'll have noticed that my colleague Laurie is wearing a very fetching pair of cans. That's because we're currently still trying to trace an unknown audio glitch, and we've replaced nearly all of our kit in our continuous drive to improve our quality, so we're just trying to make sure that things are as good as they possibly can be for you. Also, he's here because I want to see his reaction as well as mine when I do put my foot down in this beastie. I've set the car in dynamic because, to be honest, if you want to know what this car is like as a nice soft comfy cruiser, it's brilliant. There you go, done. It's obviously nowhere near as economical as the A8, which is frankly ludicrously good for a car of its size and has a stupendous range. That car had a 90-litre tank. This one, for some reason, only has an 80-litre tank. So it claims when you fill it up that you get over 450 miles of range. However, its owner has confessed to me that he hasn't seen anywhere near that yet, possibly because he's still enjoying the benefits of this prodigious power plant. We'll be able to do that in just a minute when we hit the national speed limit. And so we're in fourth gear now. doing 40 mile an hour. There's a car in front of us, actually an A3 by the looks of it. So I'm going to let him just, you know, get a little bit of distance. Then I'm going to just prod the beast. Let's see what happens. Oh, there's 60.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That doesn't feel how I thought it would feel, but it's impressive, very impressive when you consider the weight. That was just, there you go. It's just whoop. Oh, you wanted 60. Sorry. There you go. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
That's a teleport machine. That
Yes.
teleports you from.
Oh, oh, it pushes you back. It really does. Right, I'm going to turn around so we get a little bit of clear road. The shifting is not as smooth as the A8. I think it's been programmed for a sportier shift. Right. And here's it from about 15 mile an hour. It's quite fun.
What did you get up to?
Only about 60. It's geared quite short, and it's very interesting because it's not a seamless change at all, as you could probably see there. It's quite actually a violent one, and that's probably because this car is using the 8-speed ZF gearbox. It's not a dual clutch item. You can hear just very gentle notes of the gearbox popping a little bit. Yeah, it's an odd sensation. I think actually the car might do better in the higher gears because it's just got so much torque, you can just pull it. Yes, that's what it wants to do. Compared to the RS5, it's odd because this is, I'm sure, a considerably faster car, but the RS5 just felt more visceral in basically every way. The red line is actually quite low. It's just under 6,500, and if you've got used to something like the RS5, it's almost a little frustrating to have to change up that soon. But it seems to me that the car's real trick is probably pulling in higher gears, so I've been treating it a little bit too much like a naturally aspirated engine there and letting it rev, whereas actually I'm going to try something now and I'm going to try and ride the torque out of it instead, and take it down some slightly twistier, nice roads that I've driven the A8 and the RS5 on. As an experience though, I can see why this sort of car would appeal to a lot of people, myself included, because it's the sort of car that if you want to take someone on a nice big airport run, you can chuck a couple of people in the back, put their cases in the boot, take them on a nice long drive, and they'll be perfectly comfy, they'll be perfectly happy. You know, it can play the executive taxi thing very, very convincingly. And when you want to be a hooligan, it can kind of do that as well. Now, the tyres on this car are 265s, which I'm quite surprised about. I thought it might have had slightly bigger boots. The steering in this car is definitely better than in the A8. There isn't a lot of feedback or texture through it, but it's nice and direct, and you feel like you have some control over this car's considerable mass. Driving around in things like the Subaru and the Evora and stuff like that, this is just so pleasant, so nice. Honestly, if I had the money, I would probably have one of these. Well, the equivalent 7 Series for some reason just doesn't do as much for me, and I like the idea of the effortless performance that you get from the all-wheel drive system. Now I'm going to do a different test. I'm now at about 30 miles an hour in 5th gear. I'm in sporty manual mode, so I'm doing about 1600 RPM. I'm going to put my foot down and see what happens. I'm at 35 mile an hour and foot down. Wait, and just picks up pace in quite a disturbing fashion, really. The brakes work.
Yes.
It's just yeah, it's not a, it's an odd sensation. How do I best describe the feeling of this car? I've been in cars which feel much more visceral and which seem to be much more brutal in their acceleration. Those tend to be cars which are an awful lot lighter. This car, though, has the sort of feeling of acceleration that seems to want to defy physics. It doesn't feel like a Nissan GTR at all. On paper, you might think that it would, because combination of very heavy car with very powerful turbocharged engine, but that's not the sensation that I get at all. It takes a while to get wound up, but when it does, it's yeah. I think this is less GTR, more bullet train. Now this road is quite entertaining because it's got some twisty sections, some open sections. It's quite a challenge for a car of this girth. Whoa. It picks up. You have to keep an eye on that speedo because, yeah, it gains speed very, very quickly. Now I've got to be really careful here because this is where I jumped the A8 and I've no intention of doing it in this. Once you get to interesting speeds, this car's mass really comes into play and you suddenly feel like you don't have the control over the steering that you once did. And then it does become quite boat-like in, you know, you have to tell it what you need it to do 5 to 10 minutes in advance of it needing to actually do it, because that mass needs controlling. And this is the trade-off for having that lovely plush ride, is the fact that it's not the last word in driving and refinement. What the fuck? What are you doing? This is a really, really bizarre car. Honestly, I didn't think it would feel like this actually, but I suppose if I put some thought into it, just the idea of something that weighs this much, you know, and is ultimately its primary function in life is to be a nice comfy car, and I'm used to cars which are very much the other end of the spectrum, are very much sporting cars at the expense sometimes of refinement and other things. This is yeah, this is the definitive Autobahnstürmer. That's what it's meant to do, and for that it would be spectacular. That's second M100 Elan. 2 M100 Elans we've seen today.
You had the roof up though. I mean,
I know, what's he doing? Roof up. Wimp. Absolute wimp. Right. So the 700 horsepower S8. What do I think? Well, it's an extraordinarily nice place to be. This car's got carbon fibre everywhere. It's got this weird brown leather stuff, which Rob, the car's owner, said has grown on him. I'm sorry, Rob, I don't think it's going to grow on me. I'm a sort of black leather and carbon man with a bit of aluminium. That's my spec, and I'd have a dark grey exterior. Unfortunately, though, I mean, this car's a huge amount of fun. It's a little bit stupid. I think if I was going to buy one, I'd probably go for the A8. Maybe with the 4.2 litre diesel, because I bet that's good fun. And now the reason for that, in my case, is because I already have a super sporty, fun, great handling car in the shape of the Lotus. However, for someone like Rob, who has replaced 2 cars with 1, I can see the appeal of this. It's lovely and nice and comfy, great way to get the family about. And then if you just want to be pinned back in the seat, oh, it'll do it. It'll do it. This is a hell of a thing. And that the Quattro system is making the difference here. This is Very important. I would not want to drive a car with this kind of power with only two-wheel drive, not this size anyway, because I think that could be a little bit terrifying, especially if it wasn't a pristine, perfect day like it is today. So, there you go. The S8. An interesting car, if ever there were one. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye. Yeah, do you want to cut that there?